I had mentioned in an earlier video that I prefer using the same image as the background after blurring it out. The reason I prefer doing this wherever possible is that we do not have to get into color matching or perspectives and so on, although in nature it does not really matter a lot anyway. At the same time, we can also add a bokeh without any additional effort. So let's wash our hands and see how we can clean up birding or wildlife images using this technique in Photoshop. But before we go there, do keep in mind the 2 points I had made earlier as well. Always try to get the subject in the clear, which makes it very easy to clean up. Second, always start with a good image. Okay, so this including these images are all from today from my rooftop. And this is the rooftop boundary wall where I place bird feed, and I get a lot of birds here. All the common ones come here anyway. So for today, I have chosen this image. We have a rock pigeon here already on the wall, and another one had just chased away this parakeet and it's flying over. There is actually nothing wrong with the image. It's good, sharp, close, but we can make it better, and let's see how we can do that. So I have already done the initial setup and processing after the preset is applied, and I've actually already processed it as well. So we'll just unstack, go into stack and expand the stack. So this is our original image, and this is where we are going to go with it. So a Command E will take us into Photoshop with this image. I've already started Photoshop, so we don't have to wait forever. And there we have it. So the first thing I always do is to create a backup of the image that we've just imported. Command J is a shortcut. Then we remove the visibility of the background, so we see only this duplicated layer. We keep this original just in case we make any mistakes. We don't have to go back into Lightroom and open up. So let's go into the select menu as before, and let's try the subject first. That seems to do a reasonable job. Let's press Z and zoom in a bit. Press W, the shortcut for quick select, and maybe just refine some of these areas. Maybe zoom in a bit more. Press the left bracket key to reduce the size of the selecting circle. That should be good enough. Command 0 will fit in screen, and we click on the layer mask to mask it out. So that seems to be a pretty decent job. Now we go into the background again. Press Command J to make another copy of it. Enable the visibility. Make sure that the background copy is selected. Go into Filter, Blur Gallery and the Field Blur. What I generally do is I simply pull this up to the highest and then bring it down to wherever I think it might be reasonably acceptable. Let's say there. Of course, this is a heavy operation and does take time. And this slider will allow you to add a bokeh where the lighter contrasty colors exist. You can also change the bokeh color. You can increase the light range where Photoshop looks to create all of this. You can bring this down. So it has just a minimal hint, and maybe increase the blur in this case, or maybe put it to the full. Now the problem with these kind of images is, since we are using the same image as the background, we tend to get this halo around with the same color. So you need to be careful when using the bokeh options. So for now we'll put the range back, and we'll remove the bokeh altogether. The other thing I would generally advise doing is to add a bit of noise on this background layer, because otherwise it would look a bit too smooth compared to the actual image. So we go into noise, add some grain, like let us say just about 1%. No need to change anything else. So this is still updating, and we have a 1 here. You go back into the effects, you've got some grain added, and we simply press a OK. Now this operation generally takes a while. It is not necessary that you do a field blur. It can also be other faster blurring options. Now this is going to take a while, so I'll just skip through this. Okay, so the blurring is finally complete. This operation can easily take 5 to 10 minutes. So it is an expensive operation, but you don't necessarily have to do this, and we'll go into that also. For now, we press a command minus to zoom out. While the background is selected, we do a command T for transform, and maybe just pull this up so we can move it around. So pick and choose where you think the colors match and you don't have to do any further cleanups, and press enter on that. A command 0 brings us back. We see some edges here, so let's look at the original. Okay, so these are actual from the camera, so we can leave those. Pretty much done already, not much more to do. So what else can we use besides the field blur? So let's disable this, create another copy of the background, enable that, go into filters, go into blur, and you can experiment with all of these. Let's say box blur. Just use a reasonably high value, and it's almost equally good. You can also do a combination of, let's say, a couple of blurs. Let's say a motion blur. Change the direction. So that's another way. And let's delete this, make another copy of the background, and this time we use just the motion blur. So let's say something like this, and we blur it out a bit more. Okay, go back into the filter and choose a box blur, reduce this for now, and these are reasonably fast operations. So there we have it. This is what you can do, and in fact, if you really want to, you can even remove the pigeon. Simply select the mask, make sure the black color is selected. You can press D to switch to the default colors, X to toggle between the white and the black. Once the black is selected, press B for brush, press right bracket key to increase the size of the cursor, and simply wipe it off. Now you have only the parakeet. As we saw in an earlier video, we can also totally replace the background. Let's just take a quick look as to how we do that. We go back into Lightroom, press a G for the grid view. No backgrounds for today. Do we have anything? Okay. This is the moon from yesterday. We do a Command E on this to take it into Photoshop. And we can do a right click here, duplicate layer, duplicate it to the first document, press OK. Close this document since we don't need it anymore. And this is a far more cropped image. Firstly, we'll bring it down here. Press Command T for transform, Command minus to zoom out, and pull this across. Something like this, and press enter. Command 0 to fit, and we just change the cursor back to the move tool, and that's it. Play with your creativity, do whatever you feel looks good to you. Unlike professional photographers, we are not tied to a client's liking. We just do what we like best. So back into Lightroom, and this is what we have, the original, the simple cleanup, and a total replacement of the background. Of course, you can choose to match the temperatures of these two images, maybe totally enlarge the moon to cover the subject, or maybe make it even smaller to fit in between the wings of the parakeet. That's a totally subjective, creative idea. We'll do some more of these cleanups later.